Hi, it's Kim from Expressions of the Universe with your weekly wisdom for May 30th through June 5th, 2021. And I have your Goddess of the Week, the card and theme of the week, and I have your astrology. So we are in between. We're in the wormhole of the eclipses. It's eclipse season, and I just thought that I would talk about what it is that I've been picking up and contemplating this week because we're also in retrograde season. But I do have your goddess card of the week, and she is Ishtar. It's card number 23. She's the goddess of communion. Got hopefully you heard that. The goddess of communion, card 23, Ishtar. I love the way her crown and body has this glowing aura around it. So let me just read a little excerpt from the guidebook on her. The empowerment message here is: our intimate relationship with the invisible world is being called upon right now as we enter unfamiliar environments and situations. Totally perfect for this time period of the eclipses and retrogrades. It's time to commune with the great goddess, the aspect of the conscious universe in her most collaborative form. The world then becomes your oracle as it opens up and communicates everything you need in the form of signs, omens, and messages. Now is the time to pay attention to synchronicities and those moments when logic and reason fail to give you the full picture. The Mesopotamian goddess Ishtar reminds us of the time in her ancient temples when priestesses served as oracles, such as myself, communing with the goddess and imparting wisdom to the people who sought guidance. Look at everything in your life as an opportunity for communion, losing the need for self-centeredness, connecting to Source in a sacred, intimate way. You will not pray on your knees as a supplicant. You engage the great goddess as a partner in co-creation, participating in the making of worlds. And that's what we're really doing during this retrograde season and the eclipse season. We are creating something brand new, and we're creating a new world. We're coming out of the pandemic. And like I've said before, who wants to go back to that old normal? Certainly not I. I want a little bit of that old normal, but I want some of the serenity that we've had over the last year. And, that isn't minimizing how terrible the pandemic was, but there were a lot of good components of it. We engage the great goddess as a partner in co-creation, participating in the making of worlds. Said that. No one needs to rescue you when you act empowered, aware, and awake to the wondrous miracle you're a part of. Now, the alignment message for this card. When we are refusing to see the signs, it can ultimately take us down a path that we really don't want to be on. When red flags indicate something is not quite right, it's not a sign to jump in with both feet. It says, this is not for you. This is not yet. This is to be revealed. If we choose to move forward stubbornly, we could find ourselves back in an old lesson we'd rather not face again. When we are attached to an outcome and unable to see another option, we might say, the oracle said this was not in my best interest, but now I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm in the middle of that same thing, like getting some red flag warning signs, and I'm wondering if I should do something. And like I'm overthinking the whole entire thing. So I think I should just not, especially picking this card today. I'm like, oh, is this my sign? I think it is. The truth is, the goddess Ishtar is offering an alignment task for us now. Trust that the wisdom in the universe will provide with perfect form and divine timing. This means we may have to wait a little while, reconnect to our partnership with this goddess and the universe, and trust that we will not be left behind. This connection is at the core of everything. So there you go for that. What do we have this week? So coming up next week, we do have a solar eclipse with the new moon in Gemini on June 10th. This week, however, June itself is a really powerful month. We do have the annual solar eclipse. There will be a full moon on June 24th in Capricorn. Jupiter will station retrograde on June 20th. Mercury will station direct on June 22nd, but it's going to take a couple weeks till July 7th before he's fully moving forward. Neptune will station retrograde on June 25th. And then we have the ingresses of Venus moving into Cancer on June 2nd, so that's this week. Next week, Mars will move into Leo on June 11th. The Sun will move into Cancer on June 20th. And Venus will then move into Leo on June 27th. The biggest aspects that I see for this week would be the Sun conjuncting the North Node on Monday, May 31st, and then again on Friday, June 4th. That's going to be really powerful for this North Node, because think about it, that's pretty much the direction that we're heading on into for the new moon in Gemini on the 10th with the solar eclipse. It will be a North Node eclipse, so we're looking ahead to the future. We are seeking the truth in situations. I think Saturday, June 5th could be a little difficult for us. We have Mercury retrograde squaring Neptune. Definite mental fogginess, unsuredness. Mars will be opposing Pluto. So Mars and Cancer are facing it off against each other, and they are at an impasse. The feminine, divine, emotional nature of us is at an impasse with the masculine foundational structures of the world. So there could be some tensions there. Also, the moon is squaring Pluto and the moon is squaring Mars, both at that same time. So Saturday, June 5th could be quite emotional. We could see a lot of upsets going on. We're also gearing up. This is getting a little bit of ahead, but it's a good segue into what I've been thinking. I've been retro-thinking back into the past, keep going back and back. So how do astrologers figure out what aspects really kind of mean? I mean, they take a lot of different things into consideration. The sign that the planets are in, the houses that the planets are in, and also the aspects that they're making to the other planets. But I know me as an astrologer, I look back in history to similar planetary alignments, to similar aspect alignments, and you can kind of get a flavor for what's going on. I have been really drawn back into pre-Civil War era lately, and when I look at that, I have that up here on my screen. I noticed Neptune is in Pisces like it is now. Mars was in Cancer. as it is now, and Uranus was in Taurus. Uranus was actually coming to the end of its transit in Taurus. So we're seeing a lot of aspects that were the precursor to the Civil War. And I feel as though we've been seeing a lot of that lately, over the past few years, especially with the tensions in the United States and the rest of the world. Where am I going with this? So this year we have 3 squares between Saturn and Uranus. Saturn, who is of the old ideals, in Aquarius, of the new ideals, and Uranus, the great eliminator, the change maker, in fixed Taurus, that doesn't like the change. And they keep squaring it off. The first square was February 17th. So my thoughts go back knowing that we have another square coming up between Saturn and Uranus on June 14th. The first pass through was the culmination of everything that happened at the very beginning of January, because we had Mars squaring a lot of the planets, and then it came to a head in February. You'll notice that also too, towards the end of 2020, a lot of the stories that were in the news from, say, November of 2020 up through the end of January of 2021 are all resurfacing right now during this retrograde season. So it's very interesting how that's playing out. And here we're going to have another pass through on June 14th. And then again later in the year. This is the old versus the new. And we're not sure, who's going to win. I mean, of course, the new wins, but how? And this is a very slow, progressive type of alignment and aspect. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I keep thinking back. And then I was also thinking back to 1980 in my personal life. A lot of different themes have been coming up with that. So I don't know what you've been retro thinking on during this Mercury retrograde, Saturn retrograde, Pluto retrograde, soon Jupiter and Neptune joining. But I wouldn't be surprised if you're thinking back or even encountering people and situations from those time periods, from, your earlier life. I just find that it's pretty interesting, and I keep pulling up different charts for that. My crystal of the week, and I couldn't find a bigger piece, and I needed it so bad. I'm using lithium quartz this week. I don't know if you could see it. Hopefully you can see this. So lithium quartz, not only does it work in technology pieces, so it's perfect for this particular time that we're in, but it's extremely soothing. So if you find yourself feeling anxious or even angered during this time, lithium quartz is wonderful to have. And I do have more pieces of it somewhere in my bins, but I'm keeping that close to me to help me stay grounded and soothed. And I highly recommend it for anyone during this time period. All right, I would like to pull a card from the Wisdom of the Avalon deck to give us our theme for the week. I love Colette Baron Reid. I love her decks. I think this is her first deck that she ever put out. Haven't pre-picked this card yet. Let's see. What stands out to me? We'll go with this one. Oh, this is good. It's the spider. If you've been watching me for a while, you know I love the spider symbolism, spider card, because it does talk about co-creation. It does have us focus on what is it we are creating, not only with our thoughts and our words mentally, but what are we doing in this world creating. And that is what this card Ishtar is talking about, really connecting with the divine, with the universal energy, paying attention to the signs and the omens that are coming forth to us during this time to co-create a brand new world for ourselves. I love this. It's also about abundance. This spider card also reminds me to be of the utmost integrity, because our lives can get caught and tangled in these webs. My grandfather always used to say, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we choose to deceive." And then there was another little poppyism I used to call that no matter how finely spun, the spider's web always shows in the sun, so you can't hide anything during this time. I think this is the perfect card. The North Node is going to illuminate things that we have not seen before, and they are going to start to unravel and come out over the coming months. Just one more time, I'll show you that. I think what else is very interesting is coming into Cancer season and Leo season. That aligns with a lot of the planetary aspects of the First World War, the pandemic from the Spanish flu that the world was in 1918, and also in World War II. So I'm not just focusing on that civil war in the United States, which did cause unrest everywhere in the world, but also these world wars. A lot of the planets are in those concentrated conjuncting stellium energies. So I feel as though it's almost as if the culmination of all these different wars over the last few hundred years throughout the world are really coming together and looking for a way to change that energy, because it really amazes me how many 160 years have passed since the United States Civil War, yet there are people living in this country that still are living in that time. I really believe that I had a past life there. Um, and that maybe that's why I'm so drawn to it. If there's any part of history, time period of history that you are extremely, I'm watching some birds in my trees eating the mulberries. If there's any part of history or time period that you are really drawn to, you most likely had a past life there, and it's always good to maybe try and go and explore that. But a lot of these same themes are coming up. I'm currently watching a docu-series on Discovery Plus called Hate Thy Neighbor, and I'm only like 1.5 episodes in, and I'm really shocked that that stuff is happening in the United States. So this comedian, he's multiracial comedian from the UK, comes to the United States and interviews different groups of people, different hate groups, to find out like what's their platform, like why do they hate so much. And I'm just watching it as an eye-opener, because like I had no idea that some of this crap was going on. And you know, I live in Pennsylvania. It turns out one of the biggest nationalist groups, which are Nazi groups, are here in Pennsylvania. I had no idea. I live in a bubble. But when I traveled down south in the end of 2019, I couldn't believe that there are still Ku Klux Klan members down there, and rebels, Confederates flying the Confederate flag, you know, because they think they won the war. And I guess you know, racism, whatever. But if you get a chance, so far the series is pretty good. I'm finding it just eye-opening. I also highly recommend on Amazon Prime, I watched a limited series brand new called The Underground Railroad. I couldn't even watch portions of it because it was really harsh, but that was beautiful, done in like a dream type of sequence. I cried a lot, um, but it was good, and it's coming from a different perspective than we are used to seeing. um, it's coming from the slave's perspective, and I think that's why it was a little difficult to watch, but also eye-opening and educating, again, because I can't even imagine, you know, what that's like. But anyway, we should always keep ourselves open to learning all different things. And I'm going to leave you with that because I'm just rambling and rambling. I hope whoever got to enjoy a long weekend had a beautiful one. It poured rain here from Friday until almost this morning, and it was the coldest Memorial Day weekend since 1884 here in the Philadelphia area. Some of the days didn't even get out of the 40s. I had to turn my heat back on, and just think, it was 93 degrees last weekend and I had to install my window air conditioners. Crazy world. Global warming is real. Climate change is real. Let's try and make a change so that we can maybe reverse that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Have a great week. Bye.